Welcome to the Be Magnetic podcast. I'm your host Tara, energetic strategist, psychic medium, and your guide to life and business that feels like a full body fuck yes. If you're ready to move beyond success and step into true peace, pleasure, and prosperity, this podcast is for you. Get ready for unfiltered stories, mindset shifts, and real strategies that will empower you to live and lead with your heart. Together, we'll unlock your highest potential, expand deeply rooted abundance, and shift into soul-led success without sacrificing your authenticity, joy, peace, or freedom. So take a moment, settle in, feel the energy shift, and let's dive into the magic that awaits. Hi, gorgeous, and welcome back to the podcast. Today we're talking about how to navigate life launches, and I'm really excited because this is a topic that has come up so many times in client calls and just conversations that I had, and that's something that I wanted to touch on deeper because I feel like it's such an important topic and a topic that is way outdated to talk about because we've been so accustomed to just go with it and just, push through the energy of life launches. This has been a model that, doing business and doing sales, that's been so common, that's been like ever present in our digital business owner world. And that I personally never really resonated with. I'm going to go a bit more into my personal story later, but I've felt kind of pressured or, not pressured, but I felt the need to do because everyone was doing it and it did work really well for, the majority of people. But I've always asked myself if there might not be a better solution for this. And so I really wanted to tap on it, not just to give you some real guidance on how you can navigate life launches, because let's be honest, they're so freaking exhausting. And second, also, I want to present you with a different way of making sales that doesn't necessarily need life launches. So whether you just want to have advice on navigating this time easier, or you want to look for a different option that you can maybe rotate with or just replace life launches with, you're right here. This episode is for you. So first of all, let's get us started with talking about the pros and cons of life launches and whether they're actually worth it. So I do feel like the good thing on life launches, and also why I do believe that they might be beneficial still, even though they require a lot of hard work and a lot of specific energy, they do give us a pretty quick, pretty certain cash injection. So usually, depending on where you are in your business journey, but most of us more established business owners, when we do a live launch, we know that there's at least a few people buying something because we've got this set period. We've got usually we're building an audience before that. We have a free gift or something like that, a masterclass or a freebie or some sort that kind of gets people interested. And then we have a set end time, a deadline and some urgency to, buying the offering. So we take our audience basically through this very pre-designed journey in a very specific time frame that then allows us to get people to buy quicker versus if we were to just drag them along for the entire year and that there would be people buying but other people would be postponing because it's not the right time. We give them the time frame, the container where there is enough urgency, there is enough hype, there is enough desire to jump in. So it can be very beneficial. It can be a very income source. It can also be very beneficial when we have different offers that we want to get out there during the course of a year. We can plan it very strategically to not overwhelm our audience, but also to make sure that we fill all the containers we want to fill. So that is also a beautiful thing. It also gives us the opportunity to gift discounts or special offers, if that is a route that we want to go down, that again will, emphasize purchase for our audience without confusing them, right? Because if we were constantly to give discounts throughout the year without any special purpose, people would kind of get confused and be like, what's the real price of this now? So that makes it easier for us to, again, get more people in by giving them like a special discount early bird offer whatsoever. So those are like clear pros of a life launch. The cons of a life launch is obviously that it is a very exhausting time period over the course of the launch period, and even a few weeks before, it usually requires more of our energy and attention, even if we pre-created everything, even if we repurposed content from old launches, for example, it still requires us to be very present because we have to be in our DMs all the time. We have to respond to questions. We have to show up to the masterclass. We have to be in a very good energy to actually receive that and to hold the energy. And that can be sometimes very difficult because there's a natural pressure also with these life launches because we put expectations on them because we know that they usually work well and that they usually are a great way for us to have a cash injection. We put pressure on those life launches, and so we navigate that while also holding space for clients to come in. So that is very emotionally and mentally draining, and the longer the launch goes, the more mentally and emotionally draining that is. So I've, for myself, for example, realized that I don't want to do this too much in a year because I don't want to feel that way and have to be on for 2 months every 3 months basically. I want to have a bit more ease between that so I can actually lean back, not have to be on all the time, not have to show up online all the time, but go with the natural flow. So that is the difference. But obviously we can have launches and still have the time in between. It really depends on how frequently we schedule those launches. So you see there is both advantages and disadvantages to life launches. And I'm not saying that life launches are totally outdated and we should never do them. Absolutely not. I myself also do still life launches. I just realize that I don't want to do them as the only or primary way of selling in my business because it just doesn't work with how I picture my life, right? I don't want to, again, like I said, be on this entire time and have to deal with this emotional roller coaster stuff, which kind of gets me into the next point, why are life launches anyway so exhausting, and how do we manage the emotional roller coaster, which I think is going to be very important, especially for those of you who do want to continue doing life launches as their primary business module. The reason life launches are so exhausting is because of what I said earlier. First of all, we have to be present, we have to be on all the time and when I say all the time, I don't necessarily mean 24/7, but I mean throughout every day or multiple days through a longer period of time, right? So you when you're in a 3-week launch period, you can't allow yourself to just disappear for a week because that's not going to be helpful for the launch. That's kind of what I mean. So you have to be on and you have to be preferably in a good energy to really hold this space, right? Which brings me to the second point. There is going to be a emotional and mental roller coaster because you're going to have days where no one signs up, neither to your free offering nor to the actual paid offering. And navigating that is challenging, no matter how many years you are in business or how many launches you've done, because you've probably set yourself a goal that you actually want to reach. And so there'll be a time in each launch where it's going to be challenging because your ego might come in and say it's not going to be possible to reach that, or just have a bad day or whatever, human things. But in launch period, they're just so much more intense. They're so much more emphasized because we put that pressure on ourselves to be in a good energy all the time because we feel like that is required to have a successful launch. So we navigate all of that. We navigate the conversations that we are having around, people saying, no, that's too expensive, or I don't like, it's not the right time. And then we make that mean the thing. So there's like around launch period, there's all these different stories pop up that we then are invited to navigate, and we are being shown all the shadows that we still hold, all the limiting beliefs that we still hold. They're all gonna come up in the same time period, while we are also hyperly focused on being in a good energy, which makes us kind of exhausting. And those are basically, and then like the third kind of reason of why they're exhausting is that slightly depends on how prepared you are, but there's usually also more work because you'll ideally post more in that time, and you're more in your DMs, you're holding, masterclasses. It requires more of your actual physical energy and time to be present in the launch. And depending on your life or the way you picture it, that's maybe not something that you enjoy for too long, so it can get exhausting over time. So those are the three reasons that I can think of, at least, as to why live launches are exhausting. And there's still a few things that we can do though to navigate those emotional roller coasters a little bit better for all the times we do want to do live launches. So the first thing I've already mentioned, you can prepare, right? You can repurpose content, especially if you launch the same offer in the same way with the same free offering like masterclass or freebie or whatever before. You can repurpose the content you use to promote it, and just make slight tweaks or touches, or maybe you've got a new idea, so you create a new post, but you don't have to create, I don't know, like 21 posts and like 10 emails from scratch every single time. You can repurpose some of the old stuff, which again lifts some of the weight of your schedule, because you have less work to do at least the second, the third, and fourth, and from there on, right? The first time it just requires more work. So that's the first thing you can do. You can prepare yourself, and I highly recommend that, to prepare yourself and pre-schedule and prepare as much as you can. Like for the live launch, for every live launch that I've ever made, I've given myself time to prepare and like pre-create content, so that during the live launch I can just be present and I don't have to worry that much about that, and I can just create whatever feels inspired. But I do have posts come out and emails go out even if I don't feel creative that day, and just have to maybe navigate my emotional shit a bit more. The second thing that we can do, and I highly recommend, is to schedule in real self-care and time for emotional processing. So you don't want to, during launch period, you don't want to pack your schedule so full that you are so busy, but you actually want to actively schedule some time in so that you can sit with these shadows and these emotions that will come up, and you can process that. You want to schedule some extra self-care, some extra massages, or just meetings with your coach, or see friends, or like fun things, so that you there is something that rebalances that pressure that you're feeling in launches with something that's easy and like joyful. So that is something that will allow you to navigate just the emotional roller coaster a bit more and make you feel a little bit more balanced during this time. And then the last thing that we can do is to acknowledge the fact that it doesn't mean anything. So one of the reasons, like I said, that live launches feel so exhausting is because we put so much emphasis on them, and we think that they are the end of the world. They are a all or nothing thing. And if we can look at live launches as just another component of our business strategy, we can actually take away some of the pressure and understand that no matter how this launch goes, it's not the end of the world, and I'm still financially covered. So I would never bet all my horses on one launch. I would never bet all my horses on launches in general. I would always have a different sales strategy in place that allows me to compensate in case a launch didn't go so well. And I would also make sure that the goal that I've set is a goal that I do want to achieve, but I'm not like approaching it from the sense of I have to achieve this goal or else I'm not successful or I'm not going to be able to pay my bills or whatsoever, right? I want to make sure that the goal I set for a launch is something that I want to achieve, but it's not the end of the world if I don't, right? So kind of lower the pressure in this way. I already mentioned earlier that I do believe that life launches are still beneficial, even though they are exhausting and they do require more work, because again, we have this cash injection and it also gives us an opportunity to test what's working. It's going to give us an opportunity to refine our messaging. It's an opportunity to just make new connections, get into more conversations, because if we're being honest, when we go about our unusual day-to-day business, sometimes we don't put as much emphasis on connecting with people or on being present online. And so by getting ourselves out there more, even if people don't necessarily buy right away, we still set the foundation for it. We still get into conversations, we still get ourselves out there and get seen, and that can be very beneficial even for other sales strategies that we'll discuss in a bit. So how can we actually scale our business without relying on life launches? So there's obviously probably a million different ways, but the couple ways that I pursue and empower people to really get into are natural sales and soft launches. So what I mean by that, natural sales and soft launches both depend, or their foundation is both in real connection building. And I do feel like that for us women specifically is something that is very second nature. It's like very natural. It's not something that we do to make money. It's just something that we do because we're good at it and it's fun for us. So what I've really realized over the course of my business and mentoring so many women on their business journeys, those women who have leaned into building real, deep connections with other people, they have been the most successful with the most ease. So what I mean by that is if we can build connections, if we know a lot of people, and I remember one guy, which is so out of topic, but one guy I met in South Africa on my trip back in, 2017 or whatever year it was. And he would be he was local to where I traveled there, but he would always come over to the hostel where all the tourists and backpackers stayed. Every night he would hang out, he and his group of friends, they would hang out there with the backpackers and the travelers, and he would get into conversations and just hang out with us, have fun, tell us, he would show us around, do things like that, just create real relationships with us. And then at some point he would always ask everyone for an Instagram follow. And I thought even back then, this is such a great strategy because, and I'm not saying strategy in the way, it is a great strategy, but it's also so human and so beautiful, right? So it's such a great strategy because he actually made connections. And we, even later, while we, the second time, the third time I returned, we were real friends. We actually hung out as friends. The reason wasn't because he wanted Instagram followers. Of course he did that with a back thought in his mind, but he also built real connections and built real friendships in a way. It's not the best friend kind of we do everything together kind of friendship, but real friends, real relationships. And then he had people who supported him, and he had people, while I was probably not someone who could actually help him, I was still helping him in a passive way because I gave him one person to increase his Instagram followers that then allowed him to become a pro surfer. So this is just a beautiful way to illustrate how really feeding into connections can actually help us build opportunities. And I think the most important thing to note here is the intention with which we build these connections. And it is really, really important for me here to note that it's not about building connections to make sales, because the people will notice. And I've had conversations with friends as well who have said, or shared that someone else just built a relationship with them and they felt that it was just about business, and that was totally turning them off. And I do feel the same way. Like, if you build a connection with me just because you believe I'm going to be your client, I will notice, and that's going to turn me totally off. So the secret here is not to build the connection because you do it for business, but because you actually enjoy building the connections, because you want to be friends with these, because you want to be in that world, you love their energy. And then when we have these real connections, there's naturally opportunities that come from that, right? And then that then enables us to do either soft launches or regular selling, because we are constantly in conversations and we will realize opportunities. And with the constant selling, the strategy that implies is that we are in conversations, and by having these conversations, we notice people say something where there's a natural opportunity where we can say, hey, I can help you with this. It's just like you have conversations with your friends and they notice, my hair is always so electric, like, can you tell me anything? Like, do you've got a product? Or do you know your yoga teacher? Because I really want to do this workshop with a yoga teacher, whatever. There's opportunities from conversations and connections, and we can harness them in a natural way, which lead to natural sales throughout the year that we don't necessarily need a live launch nor to be present all the time. If we have deep connections, especially with our online community, it can also lead to people just responding to a story that we've made, inquiring about working with us. That has happened to me and to so many of my clients before as well. Or you can also, way easier, just share a story about something that has happened in your life, and then, or like a client session that you had, and then invite people to hop on a discovery call or clarity call, or a free or whatever you want to promote, right? And get people in there. But you first need to have these real deep connections, and you have to constantly build them over the year so that you can then have those opportunities throughout the year where you can actually sell. So that is the first strategy. Soft launching is similar to that, but you would set for yourself a specific time frame where you then specifically reach out to people that you've maybe had conversations with, or that have engaged in free resources, or risen their hand in some way, said in some shape or form that they wanted to work with you before, and you would reach out to them in a very personal way, inviting them to the offer without making it super public. And the benefit of that is less exhausting, because you don't have to be on so much, right? You're literally just having like more conversations, and you could do that forever, right? Why you set yourself a time frame for that. It doesn't matter if that didn't happen, you could just do it in a few months with a few other people again, right? So there's less pressure because it's not so public, it's not so out there. You just do it for yourself, basically. So these are two ways in which you can scale without relying on live launches. And I personally believe and have seen in so many of my clients' journeys that the only real way in which you can actually scale without burning yourself out, so build really long lasting sustainable success, is by nurturing those connections and that community, so that you don't rely on live launches. You can still use live launches, like I said, to get a big cash injections, and it might be actually a really good thing to do for you, but you don't require them. And that is something that's going to bring so much ease to you, and it's going to make this whole business journey so sustainable. Because if we say you become a mom and you just don't want to be present but still need to sign clients or make money, you could actually sell without having to go into full launch mode. So that is my 2 cents on this. I'm going to finish up with a couple mindset hacks and how I'm navigating through the highs and lows of life launches. I've already shared a couple before, but I want to go deeper and share 6 more. Self-care is number 1. Again, I'm always making sure there is so much self-care in periods like that, and I'm going to make sure that everything that isn't absolutely necessary during that time is going to be postponed or put to a later date after the launch, So I actually have a lot of time to care for myself, to have fun, to do whatever I want or need in the moment. Which leads me to point number 2. Spaciousness. I make sure that there's so much space in my schedule and in my life that I can actually attend to whatever I'm feeling, because the worst thing that for me can happen is that I get stuck on an emotion and I don't get rid of it, and I drag it all through the launch. So I want to make sure that I have space in my schedule that I can actually, once something arises, sit down and process it, so it is actually processed and I can move on. Number 3 is to expect shadows to come up. So again, it would be foolish to go into a life launch thinking everything is going to be sunshine and rainbows, because that's not how it is. Even the most experienced business owners do still have shit come up. And the more we expect shit to come up, the easier it is for us to deal with it, because we are prepared emotionally, mentally for that to come up. And again, we have the space and the self-care tools scheduled in to make sure that we can deal with these shadows properly. Number 4 is to trust the process. Again, it doesn't serve you to force things or to put pressure on yourself to have things a certain way. Trust the process. Allow things to unfold naturally and just trust that the way this launch is going to turn out is exactly how it's going to turn out. I've had a client also who had a really successful launch, but instead of having the people into the containers that she wanted them into, there were a couple different containers that she also got people into. And yes, she could have put a lot of pressure on herself to fill those spots in those other containers and felt, like she failed in a way because she didn't. Or she could have just trusted the process, what she did, and allowed these other containers to hold a few clients naturally as well. She did achieve her sales goal, but that was besides the point. Trusting the process and just allowing clients to come in the ways and into the containers that they're meant to come in, and just trusting the amount of clients to come in that are meant to come in. So trusting the process is impeccable for this journey. Number 5 is to set boundaries, and beyond low expectations. So while everyone will advise you to probably set big launch goals, I advise the contrary. Set the lowest expectation you could probably have. Like, tell yourself, if one person signs up, I'm beyond thrilled. And from there, you can only be surprised, because if you set these extra high goals of like, I want to reach 20k or I want to reach 50k, or I don't know, you're going to put a lot of pressure on yourself, and you're going to be very disappointed when it seems like it's not going to happen, and you're going to sabotage yourself. So by setting beyond low expectations and being happy with the absolute least, you actually create forward momentum and upward momentum, because you're like, I've already reached my goal. How sick is that? It can only get better from there, right? And then number 6 is to don't make it mean something it doesn't. So whatever is happening throughout the launch, whatever is not happening throughout the launch, don't make it mean anything. Don't touch meaning or create a story out of a message that you got, or out of a day where no one signed up, or out of 3 people saying no, or 1 person canceling. Like, don't create a story out of that makes you feel all like you're a failure, or this means like you're not going to reach your goal, or whatever. Like, just let it be what it is, and understand that what is meant to be will be. And this, like, trust the process again, right? Allow things to be the way they are, and trust that everything will work out for you in the end. So those are my hacks. If you want to dive deeper into this, I can highly recommend you the episode titled Grow Your Business with Self-Trust and Intuition. We dive deeper into how we can actually grow with just more feminine energy. So that might be actually really helpful for you. And then also the episode that's titled If I Take my foot off the gas, will it all slip away? Because that's also touching on how we can find a balance between taking it slow but then also growing the business sustainably, and making sure that there's a balance between we're pushing and we're going for success but also allowing ourselves to have space and flow and focus on something else outside of business. So highly recommend those 2 episodes. I'll link them below in the show notes as well. And then make sure to screenshot this, tag me, and share your takeaway. Specifically interested in whether you're pro live launches or whether that's not for you, or just what your business module is really. I'm always excited to hear and get insights into other people's businesses. So make sure to share that with me. And without further ado, I will talk to you in next episode. Bye. Thank you for hanging out with me. It was a blast. If you're new here, then make sure to subscribe to the show to not miss any new episodes. And if you haven't done so, please feel free to give the show a 5-star rating. This means the absolute world to me, since it helps the show to grow and allows me to bring more incredible guests and episodes your way. With that being said, until next time,